This is the Hagmann Report, where truth can't be silenced, although they are trying. By they, I'm talking about the big tech oligarchs. I'm talking about the intelligence community elements therein. And this is a very, very special Saturday conference-like broadcast. With me are Steve Quayle from stevequayle.com, qfiles.tv, and another very, very special guest, Tom Horn from skywatchtv.com. You know them both. They have been so gracious, so kind to come to the aid of the Hagmann platform. Folks, very quickly, I don't want to take any time away from either Steve or Tom. Very quickly, we are under attack like we've never been under attack before. And I'm telling you, I don't know, and I mean this, I don't know if we have a week, a month, a year, or 10 years. In terms of being on this platform. And a lot of what we're fighting has to do with building a war chest, because the fight is not cheap. It's expensive. Attorneys and other avenues, equipment that circumvents the normal day-to-day type of operations. So this is the reason for today's program. And today's program, both Steve Quayle and Tom Horn are going to give you some amazing information. I'm going to step back, hand it over to Steve Quayle. Steve Quayle, my brother in Christ, my friend of decades, and a man I have ultimate respect for, as I do Tom Horn. Steve, thank you so very much. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, you're welcome, Doug. And as Tom and you and I were talking while we were getting all the glitches worked out, had it not been for your platform, literally the message that Tom and I have been giving together for, I guess, close to 20 years would not have reached around the world to all the people. So we're thanking you today. And Tom mentioned to me, he said, we got to do a fundraiser for Doug. So I want people to understand something. I'm going to share with you information I've held back. I've mentioned to it because those of you who have supported Doug, his Patreon supporters, those of you who have come to Tom's and the time Tom is Skywatch TV and bought all his books. Tom's the most generous guy in the world. I don't know how he does what he does. And we're going to talk about some specials today. But because Tom's got a little bit of a time frame issue, this is Saturday night, ladies and gentlemen. And again, we want to thank you. I think you'll find this is one of the most important broadcasts. Somebody sent me an email, Tom. I'm going to turn it right over to you and said, what does all this stuff have to do with Jesus? Well, everything. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I would guess our audience is 50-50 believers versus unbelievers. And on coast to coast, it's probably 75% unbelievers. So I asked Tom, I said, Tom, let's limit this, because he and I go on for hours and hours and hours, and this isn't a 24-hour telethon. But the bottom line is the most important pressing issues as it relates to aliens and disclosure, because the deception is coming fast and furious. God has allowed Tom Horn and myself, independent and together, to basically be ahead of the narrative. The narrative is going to be the aliens created us. The Catholic Church is going to baptize them. And then you're going to see the greatest attack on traditional Christians of all denominations. So, Tom, thank you so much. And it's always a delight to get on the radio or the podcast or on your TV program with you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, look, it's great to be with you guys again. And you remember the last time we were on the air together, and Steve, you and I both said that the next time we were on the program, regardless of what we might be talking about, we also wanted to make an appeal to people that listen to this program to do what they can do to bless Doug and try to help him with his operating budget for the coming year. Doug is a very humble man. There are so many things that he is dealing with, has been dealing with, and he does not go on his program and make that public, but people just need to know that this man deserves our support. And yeah, you know what you were saying a moment ago, Steve, you and I, as a result of Doug Hagmann, you know, we've been able to take our message from me and you years ago, talking about it on the Q Files and on shortwave and all that, to now literally going around the world. But people like Doug have a major target on their back now as a result of what has happened over the last few months, changes to U.S. administration, what's happening out of the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, all of it. I mean, there's a kind of madness that has settled on the world, and we are literally in George Orwell's 1984. It's not a coincidence that his book is the top, best-selling book at Amazon right now, and that's because people realize that what he had speculated about with Oceania is our reality today. We woke up overnight, and independent voices are not going to be tolerated if the occult elite have anything to say about it. Now, because I've seen some of your disclosures, Steve, and I know that we are going to be talking about what is coming, and it's going to be unveiled under the pretense of extraterrestrial intelligence visiting the Earth, and like you said a moment ago, the Vatican's going to be at the forefront in baptizing our space brothers and all of that, but this also is connected to the predictions on the Great Seal of the United States. There is an entity that is awakening now. It is on its way. And from Washington, D.C. To the United Nations, people are dedicated to seeing the fruition of this ancient prediction, the secret destiny of America, as Manly P. Hall called it, right? But to the point of aliens, there has been so much stuff in the news just lately that is, well, what can I say? It's intriguing. It's illuminating. I'm sure that you guys saw where the Marcel grandkids now. There was a big Newsweek article about this just like 3-4 weeks ago now. And they were being interviewed, and they're getting ready to publish Major Marcel, Jesse Marcel's private journal. And they're really only revealing what some of us on the inside have known for a long time. And that is that, when he first went into the crash site in Roswell, New Mexico, 1947, the materials that he recovered there, and then by the very next day, pressure is put on him to take tinfoil from a balloon and get his picture taken with it to say that was all that happened in Roswell, was that a weather balloon had crashed. Well, now they are publishing his private journal in which he admits that all of that was a cover-up forced upon him, but that in fact what he had witnessed that day and what he had saw and what he had recovered was absolutely not something that was from this world. Now, it's interesting because, Marcel was no Johnny-come-lately. He was a decorated intelligence officer in 1947. Even more than that, maybe stationed at the 509th Bomber Group, which at the time was the only atomic bomb unit, maybe in the entire world, certainly in the United States, in New Mexico. And all of a sudden, this mysterious crash occurs in the desert outside of Roswell, and Major Marcel is chosen to go there to investigate the site and then to report back to his superior, Colonel Blanchard. Well, now, according to these grandkids who are going to publish his private journal, we're going to find out exactly what happened there that day, and they say it was remarkable, definitely not made by human hands, and that secretly they knew this for a long time anyway, because as the grandkids, they grew up by being told that their grandfather had broken protocol by bringing home some of the debris which he showed to his son and his wife before returning to the Army base, which included these strange beams with like hieroglyphic-looking writing that would appear if you turn and looked at them at a certain angle. Now, to the bigger picture, though, Steve and Doug, what this kind of reminds me of what is Operation Paperclip, which I know you guys are both very familiar with. If there are people listening to this program that do not know what that was about, it was a secret program following the end of World War II. And so while you had many Germans who were being tried in Nuremberg for war crimes. Secretly, the United States government brought in approximately 1,600 of the top intelligentsia, the scientists, the other ones that were working for the war machine under Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich. And so they bring these guys in. Included among them is Werner von Braun, who is brought here. They're secretly working for the United States, but they're in the last couple of years with some of these artifacts, with the previously top secret documents that have been dumped as a result of the CIA and so on, opening up more about what was going on with all of our investigations into UFOs and so-called aliens and all of that. We've now found that there are documents that show that President Harry Truman, more likely than not, sent Werner von Braun into the desert there in New Mexico to also look at some of the debris that was there. And this was happening as a result of the intelligence information that was being sent over to Harry Truman, who didn't even have all of the information because the president, it's a need to know. But based on the material investigation from the crash site, he sends Werner von Braun over there to say, can you tell us what this is? And maybe the question in Truman's mind might have been, is this like something that the Nazis were working on? Because we here in the U.S. certainly don't even know what we are looking at. But another document suggests that Truman also had von Braun looking at the so-called alien bodies. And so we are only just now getting some information dating back at least to the 1940s and before, suggesting to us that something else here was really going on. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I was actually personal friends with Colonel Jesse Marcel. And Jesse has said in our home, he's told me and Nita, he's dead now, but he told me and Nita on numerous occasions about that night when he's home, he's asleep, and all of a sudden his dad comes home, Major Marcel, and he carries in this box of stuff, and he wakes Jesse Marcel Jr. up and Jesse's mom, and he's showing them this material. He's mystified by it because he's never seen anything like it before. And I will tell you this, Jesse Marcel Jr.'s story never changed. From day one, what he said he saw is the same thing that he was saying that he saw when he died a couple of years ago. And that goes along with what his grandkids are saying now, these strange eye beams that look like they had something maybe similar to, they weren't Egyptian hieroglyphics, but these very alien, strange-looking things. He told me and Nita how you could take a hammer and you could hit this bar as hard as you wanted. You could not put a dent in it. And yet you could bend it with your hands, but it had some kind of memory in it so that when you let it go, it would go right back to its original formation. Now, Marcel Jr., of course, grew up. He became a colonel. And actually, the last few years that he was alive, he told me several stories about, he's a pilot, so he was still flying in as a medic and going into some of these places where soldiers were being hurt, and he was just serving in the military as a medic. Even though he had retired, he was still doing some of that kind of stuff. His story never changed. I was also close to Stanton Friedman, the original civilian investigator into Roswell. His story never changed. And Steve, you and I are both, to this day, personal friends with Gary Stearman. And Stearman, of course, from the famous Stearman Aircraft Company that sold out to Boeing during World War II. The aircraft they built was the aircraft of choice for training rookie pilots how to fly during World War II. But after they sold out, Gary, I'm not sure how much of this he's talked about publicly, and there are definitely things he's told us both privately that we can't talk about on the radio. But one thing he has admitted was that after they sold out, especially one of his uncles, was solicited by the U.S. government, and even though he had sold out and tried to retire, he went back. They took him into doing skunk works projects for the United States government, which did include, I'll put it this way, the back engineering of exotic craft. Well, all of that storyline that you and I have known about for some time now, all of a sudden now with the dump of all of this data and information is coming out, and we're learning there's a lot of documents to substantiate and to undergird some of the even more exotic details of those events dating back to Operation Paperclip, the 1940s, and the crash site at Roswell, New Mexico. But now I think, Steve, it's getting ready to go to a whole new place. I do believe that we are in the lead up to so-called official disclosure right now. And I even personally believe, now this is not something, Steve, you and I have even talked about, and you might not even agree. I personally believe that we have entered a countdown, and somewhere around the year 2025, so we've got 4 years of the Biden administration, and everybody there, Nancy Pelosi and all the rest of them, are doing everything they can do to refill the swamp. But we are definitely dedicated, I think, on a trajectory to a countdown that I personally believe sometime around the year 2025 is going to result in catastrophic situations that is going to bring the world to their knees, including, quite possibly, what we would call the arrival of alien intelligence.
I would like to say this, and Tom, I'll be addressing the glyphs that were on the crashes, and I'm saying that plural, of a lot of the different things, even beyond Roswell. I was informed that there were 65 crashes. And as you know, you made the statement moments ago that there were, if you will, almost like hieroglyphics. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask Eric, and if you would, Eric, if you would be so kind to put up the flying saucer with the crop circle on it. And I'll tell a story. For 2 years, I've been funding and kind of in the background with a group of scientists, renegade scientists around the world, many who are running for their lives, to get a glyptionary and to begin to put all the different glyphs together. Some are very repetitious. We've taken close to 100,000. I think the total now is 48,000 glyphs. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to show that if I can. Eric, it's the one with the crop circle on the top. It's called the Rosetta Stone of crop circles.
Right, we're getting that.
Okay, the point that I want to make is, for the last 3 weeks, I had my gentleman who is, there you go, thank you, who's a Mexican, probably one of the smartest, brightest men I've ever known. He's been combing 800 square miles and basically visiting the original Aztec/alien sites. And I basically, ladies and gentlemen, have never seen this crop circle image. I remember seeing symbols like it. That happens to be the symbol of Lucifer. And what's been interesting, that in all of the control panels that we're finding and matching glyphs, we're finding the names of fallen angels. Now, even the Book of Enoch talks about it. And Tom, I want you to know, I'm being very guarded in what I say, because I want to prepare the people of God for the great, if you will, deceptions is coming. I made a statement, and I hate to use me, but again, I felt the Lord really put this on my heart. I believe disclosure is already underway with the Navy's admission of the patent for the TR-3 Bravo, the triangular-shaped craft, with each intersecting point of the angles of a triangle being a light using electrogravitic propulsion. Even on the front of Drudge today, they're talking about, speeds beyond what we can now use. Well, the reverse engineering. So the symbol that you guys are seeing right now, that is one of 1,500. I want everybody to hear this. 1,500 images that are in my possession. 1,500.
Steve, the world's never seen this before.
No, these are, and let me share a word, provenance. Provenance means you actually see the artifacts come out of the ground. The movies that have been taken, in other words, provenance has been established. But I told Tom, I said, an interesting thing, Tom, archaeologists from multiple countries are down in Mexico, and also a billionaire who I do not know. By the way, it's not Gary Haven. God bless Gary for all the support he's given us over the years. But down there, buying these artifacts up because he knows what they mean. My team, 2 men, basically went to the known location of this item after it was found. And lo and behold, the Mexican military has it secured, okay, with roadblocks and everything. So they basically cut through the jungle and went a different way to another location. I want people to understand this, that this, what you're seeing right here, all the little, it seems like design pieces, all have meaning. Now, hey, Eric, if you can go to the next one down, or the fourth one down, people have been looking at crop circles. Now, I'm talking about the real ones that are made, not the ones that people make, you know, with ropes and with, what would you say, you know, plank boards, and they make geometric progressions and stuff. So, Tom, I'll just leave it like this, is that I believe, based on the amount of foreign archaeologists and foreign military spec ops, and I made the statement, special operations from all the countries of the world, whether it's Russia, whether it's the United States, whether it's Germany, whether it's France, whether you can name a country, and they've got people looking for this. I also made the statement that, my opinion, Mexico will be the first country to break, if you will, the stranglehold of the U.S. government on all antiquities relating to aliens around the world. It's estimated that out of multiple sites by my guys who visited some of the, if you will, warehouses, that they said there's over, that they know, 25,000 artifacts from over 800 square miles with the alien Aztec theme. Now, hey, Eric, and this is important. Can you put up the piece that Daniel Holdings blew up for me? Tom, you've been at Branson when I talked about, obviously, the planet Rahab. And the planet Rahab was a planet between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter. It was called Lucifer's planet. And Lucifer's planet, Tom, we found, if you will, a panel, and I didn't find it. My team found it. I haven't been to Mexico. I don't travel much anymore. But I have guys that have, how should I say this, stones of titanium that go into some of the roughest places in the world. And because they're Mexican nationals, they can get in there, and they can also get into Latin America. So what was found was literally the description, inscribed, engraved, if you will, scrimshawed onto a special kind of slate, showing the alien pyramids, showing that the aliens created them and created them. They're taking credit, and you know, there's so many images. But the thing is, on the very left-hand side of the panel, it showed Rahab, the planet, cracking up, and Stargate tunnels going to the Earth and going other places. So what we're finding, okay, we're finding that all of these images, and so far 48,000 of them, talk about specifically celestial points. And that's the key in the crop circles.
Hey, Steve.
Hey,
Steve, I'm going to interrupt you. I apologize for interrupting. The image that you sent is, there's no image. It's a blank file.
It's okay. What we're going to do, Doug, is, well, I'm going to send you a link to do this. I'm going to turn it over to Tom because he's time sensitive. So I do not mean to be argumentative. All I'm saying is this. Based on what the different archaeologists and those who are digging up these artifacts are talking about, is they believe disclosures coming on a faster pace. And here's something, Doug, I want all of your listeners to understand. This will be exclusively available to your benefactors, the people that are going to call in and support you. They will get this written report, and they'll be given some stuff that's just mind-boggling that no human being has seen for the last 500 to 700 years. And so it's important that people understand this. I once was told, then I turned over to Tom, that the number one activity of special operations in Ultra Black is to find the alien artifacts, the alien weapons, and to control the stargates, which are all over the planet, which Tom wrote about in the Ahriman Gate. And as I've said before, almost 15 years ago, Tom, you're the one that mentioned the gates of hell in Stargates, and I never put that together as much as I've written. So thank you, my beloved friend and brother. So I'll turn it right back over to you, because again, here's the thing. There's so much coming out, and I want people to know what happened when Buzz Aldrin was taken out of Antarctica, who some of the very prominent politicians have gone to. And just to clear up about hell and the devil, Lucifer's lair, you'll see how important the name Lucifer is. So go ahead, Tom.
Well, so first of all, I want to ask you something, Steve, because you said this very quickly in passing, and I want to make sure that the audience and I actually have clarity on this. You said something about you're going to be giving, is it like a special report, and it's got these images, and you're giving that exclusively to the people that will make a donation of whatever size to help Doug with the funding the Hagmann report? Is that what you just said?
Absolutely, and I'll put a number on it, okay? Just simply because, and again, this is my Thanksgiving to Doug. Absolutely, and anybody that gives over $50, because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, this is about, just like the information that I'm talking about, no one's ever seen it before. No one's ever talked about it. I was even, how should I say this, quietly rebuked at Branson by one of the speakers saying, well, that's all fake. Well, no offense, he didn't know what he was talking about. So the thing is that I want people to understand that the images will be in this report, a special Antarctica report, and this is exclusively for those of you who donate to Doug. I'll have it in PDF form. It'll go out to you on your email. And again, everybody who's supported Doug, thank you. And I want you to know you are responsible for the great and financing one of the most amazing harvests around the world. Tom, I get emails, as you do, from people that are in the most obscure places of the world saying they had questions about UFOs, Bigfoot, aliens, all the paranormal, supernatural stuff. And they said, when you put it in the biblical context, it was like God took the veil off the eyes. If Jesus said men's hearts are going to fail for looking after those things coming upon the earth, then I don't believe Jesus is just tossing out stuff, to keep his redeemed busy. So, Tom, thank you for clarifying that one last time. For anybody who donates $50 and above, you guys will be getting a PDF of the images that no one has seen to date. And I'll even have Eric, before the show is over, put up the horned, HORNED skulls. So, Tom, take it from there.
Yeah, so I will let people know that are listening to this broadcast. I've seen a bunch of these images secretly. Steve Quayle has shared them with me. They've never been made public. It absolutely blew my mind. I would also say that it definitely does substantiate much of, again, what we're getting even from government document dumps right now, support what you're going to see visually, but that have never been a part of any. You can't go online and type in, CIA UFO document dump. You're not going to get these images, but they all do substantiate one another. Now I'm gonna press you again, Steve. You mentioned the number of images. So you said there's at one point you said 100,000, then you said like 45,000. I've seen dozens of them. And so I don't know what all is in this report. You mentioned, and I love this term, by the way. You called it a glyptionary. I can't even say the word. A glyptionary. Are you going to be producing anything that has like all tens of thousands of these images?
It's physically impossible. I'm going to be showing. And thank you, Tom, for clarifying. God gave you a wonderful linear mind. I don't share that, And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, without any flattery, I think Tom has been such a blessing to both Doug and I because he's opened up the world's eyes to what's coming down with the Vatican, etc., as it relates to aliens, you will see, ladies and gentlemen, at least a dozen to 24 different species of aliens that no one's ever seen. As a matter of fact, if you blow my mind, I've seen a lot of stuff I've never released. But what you're going to see is just astonishing panels. And I'm going to make a statement too. When you get the PDF, and I'm not kidding, you must literally say, Lord, show me what you want me to see, but I cover my eyes and my head with the blood of Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm serious, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't like, holy calisthenics. It's because a lot of it, and here's my dilemma, Tom, a lot of it is so supernaturally evil. I will not be putting that in. I pray, ladies and gentlemen, I say, Lord, just help me to help your people to understand that when you say people's hearts are going to fail, and here's the bottom line. The thing that I'm going to share with you is so contrary that it's going to be hard to take. That's why I'm saying I want you to cover your eyes and say, Lord, I cover my eyes with the blood of Jesus. I cover my mind with the blood of Jesus. And for the faint of heart, I'm saying this with all my heart. I just had an email from a lady saying she's terrified to go for walks in the woods because Bigfoot might get her and eat her. That's not what the purpose of this stuff is. It's not to titillate. It's not to go, look at how cool this stuff is. It's pretty cool. But to put it in the context of alien disclosure. And Tom, I was on record years ago saying the countries, or the country that has the gumption to break free of the United States control over buying the countries off that have all these artifacts, including Egypt. The bottom line is that country is going to take the preeminence on the world stage. And my prayer for all of our brethren and our friends in Mexico is they get the absolute, I would say this, they get the benefit and the, what's the word I want? The acknowledgement, okay, of what they've done. And I'll say this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a student of anthropology. I'm a student of archaeology. And I know a lot of stuff, but I've never seen stuff like this that ties the building of the pyramids literally to the aliens, that ties human sacrifice literally to the aliens. And Tom, the time frame on some of the glyphs goes back literally hundreds of thousands of years. So go ahead. It's going to be worth donating to Doug Hagmann and to keep his platform on the air.
Yeah, and here's the deal. So people will get this imagery from you, which the world has never seen before. But then when all of a sudden, people remember when you woke up on 911 early in the morning and you went in and all of a sudden everywhere, every newscast was something's going on. We don't know what's happening. These planes are crashing and buildings are burning down in New York, and everybody froze in their tracks. Well, that's going to pale by comparison to the soon coming event when you wake up one morning and the President of the United States, the Pope, the President of Britain are standing in the well of the United Nations, and they're saying, we have an announcement to make. We are in contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Or you wake up and it's Independence Day. And the whole world's going to be frozen in their tracks. But then, Steve, when they see the entities and they match these images that you're going to be making available to people, they're going to say, I saw that. Steve Quayle shared this with us on the Hagmann Report. And they won't be taken unaware. They won't be caught off guard. And so I'm very thankful for that. Now, I want to join you in helping Doug. So what we're doing right now, this week only, and we're doing this for the Hagmann Report, but we're featuring the biggest giveaway of books and video presentations ever. So we're giving away like $1,000 in videos and ebooks with my new book, The Messenger. And here's how that works. For a limited time, every person that goes to our skywatchtvstore.com, skywatchtvstore.com, and you see the Messenger package, for every person that makes a donation to support the Hagmann Report, I am, Doug, I'm going to personally assure that everybody that goes there and they make a donation, they get the messenger package. I'm going to personally assure that at least $5,000 is sent to you this week, because we're going to give you a portion of every sale. If it's under, if the portion is under 5,000, I'm just going to make sure it's 5,000. What I would love to see is for that to be a whole lot more, because people are going to get $1,000 in free books and videos and whatever by making a $35 donation for the messenger package. We're going to be sending a percentage to you. I hope that it's a lot more, but if it's less than that, we are going to at least send you $5,000 this week. Now, in addition to that, I would beg people to match that. I would beg people to do that. I know that there are people out there right now, Doug and Steve, that could click on the donate button on HagmannReport.com, and they could send you $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 or more. I also know that every senior citizen out there that can only give $5 or $10 can also be a blessing by going to HagmannReport.com. Right up at the top, you'll see the donate button. There's 3 different ways. Once you click on that, there's 3 different ways that you can give, including PayPal, that you could make a donation to support the Hagmann Report and Doug Hagmann. And once again, there are things that Steve and I know that Doug has been facing that he's not going to talk about because he's a very humble man and it's just not what he does. But folks, this man has been such a blessing, not only to me and Steve, but to the world as an independent investigator, a journalist, an independent broadcaster. The world has never needed Doug Hagmann more than they need him today. And you all know, if you're paying any attention at all, you all know how much pressure conservative investigators and commentators are under right now. The threat constantly of being deplatformed and hated by the new elite leaders of modern Oceania. 1984 George Orwell. We are there, and they are combing through every comment that is made by anybody, and if it does not line up with what they want, there's an enormous amount of pressure on you to try to shut you down, stop the way that you're even receiving any kind of revenue or even being able to survive. So please, if you go to skywatchtvstore.com, make the $35 donation for the messenger package, you're going to get over $1,000 of free stuff, but you're going to know that in every one of those, a portion of that is going to Doug Hagmann, and Tom Horn is giving you his word that it's going to be at least $5,000 this week. I would love for it to be $50,000, but whatever it is, we're going to send it to Doug Hagmann, or make a $50 donation. You're going to get the special report from Steve Quayle that the world has never seen, or go to HagmannReport.com, click on the donate button and make a donation. But whatever you can do, please, I don't care if it's $5 or $50,000, please help Doug Hagmann. And I know, by the way, I know that Doug's having a hard time sitting there right now just listening to us say this because he is a very humble person. He does not beg for money. He does not do any of those things. But I guarantee you that it has cost him a lot to be the man that he is. And, well, Steve Quayle and I understand this too, right? We too have basically the world against us right now. So we understand what Doug's doing and where he's coming from. And listen, America, you have a chance right now, and you may not have that tomorrow, because the agencies that want to shut down people like Doug Hagmann are very powerful, and now they have been enthroned. From Washington, D.C., to the United Nations, to the Build Back Better groups, to the Great Reset, World Economic Forum, they have been empowered to put people like Doug Hagmann out of business. You, America, can make a difference. Please do that. I beg you to do it.
Well, and also, Tom, I will match the $5,000 that you'll match. And I mean, just point blank, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you that have been his Patreon supporters, those of you who have, and some of you have given great money, especially a couple people that helped us with our exorbitant legal fees. I won't call you out by name, but God bless you. I want to thank, some very, very generous people. And ladies and gentlemen, here's what you don't hear. We don't tell you what goes on in the background because, it just takes away from what's going on. But I remember Tom's house got burned down. And, immediately after talking with Tom on the phone, he got a call, I believe, from the sheriff saying the popping sounds were blah, 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 electrical outlets or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, because you had received information from someone upon many of the antiquities that were found in a certain museum in Iraq. And I want everyone to know, at that time period, I was involved, independent of Tom, with a group that was seeking out Gilgamesh. Now, there were fake stories and there were real stories. But more than that, there were control units for the Stargates. The Stargates are a real phenomenon. Just think of Jacob's Ladder, or just think of the, how do I say this? The area that everyone's wanted to cover up. And now we're talking about messenger RNA. Well, the word for messenger is angel. So Tom and I have been talking about the extraction of DNA from basically giants and hybrids and mythological beings that basically were taken from these entities to initiate into the super soldier program. When we first started talking about that, people thought we were crazy. And I think and Doug's admitted it, this isn't a statement, but Doug's admitted, Steve, I thought you were so far out there that I forget what you said, Doug, but you thought it was far out there. And the thing is that if it weren't for God giving to Tom Horn, if it weren't for God giving Doug the platform he's given, if it weren't for the stuff that, I've said this before, Tom is on one track, I'm on the other track, but we show up at the same destination. And I want everybody to understand this, put it into a political point. By God warning you of the great alien deception, of God warning you guys through the writings of Tom, through the writings of me, and for what I'm going to show you, the thing that's critical and absolutely important is to allow you, the people of God, the people that love the Lord Jesus Christ, the people that want honest answers, that ye be not deceived. That's the whole point of everything Tom Horn writes. That's the whole point of everything I write, or videos I produce, or the videos Skywatch does. And so we're saying to you guys, thank you so much for absolutely standing with Doug Hagmann, for allowing guests like me, guests like Tom to come on. And you're literally, and look, this isn't, I'll say it, this isn't BS. This is absolute an outreach to the corners of the world. I got people in Australia that say thank you and Doug, or people that always put Tom and I, and Tom, this is funny. Hey, I just watched a video of you and Tom Horn. They don't realize one of them's 15 years old, but God is still using the anointing on that. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and so, Steve, according to the Bible, according to the book of Enoch, according to other ancient texts, those stargates that you just mentioned, they don't only open, stuff comes through them.
Yes.
And the things about these glyphs that you sent me, because again, I've been privileged to be able to see some of this before the fact. I saw many of, and you did, you have too, many of those same images in what the ancients drew in petroglyphs and other statuettes, paintings around the world. So it's not like this is a new thing. It's that we are moving back into the days of Noah, which Jesus said would happen just before his second coming. And it doesn't only, it does include some things that kind of look like modern alien grays and that kind of reptilians, reptoids. And you can find those like you and I did, Steve, when we went and met with the leaders of the 4 different nations, the Pueblo Indians, in the Four Corners area of the United States, and we were given unprecedented access to go into areas that are locked up, actually. We had to have people that came in from the Parks Department with keys to open gateways. And remember those steep canyon wall things that we had to climb down. I mean, this is some scary stuff, right, to get down into those areas that were closed off. That people you can't just drive up into the Four Corners and go to the ancient Anasazi ruins and get into these areas, but we were given unprecedented access. And when we went down into those areas, some of the drawings and stuff, the cave drawings, the petroglyphs, they reminded me very much of versions of some of, not all, but some of the images and stuff that you sent me that people are going to get when they make a donation to support Doug Hagmann. But it didn't just include aliens, also cryptids, like images of giants, massive giants, right, and six-toed giants, and the reptilian entity that the Navajos told us about, Dr. Don Mose, and so on. Things that that would remind us of Bigfoot. Now, why am I also bringing that up? Well, because this week, Robert Bigelow, right? He just now got a contract with the Defense Intelligence Agency after a senior scientist visited the Skinwalker Ranch, as we've discussed in the past. This is in the news this week, and it says that he was confronted by a, quote, highly unusual unknown intelligence, end quote. Now, this was reported by Mystery Wire, that reported this week, quote, that aerospace entrepreneur Robert Bigelow revealed that he's just created BASS, which is a subsidiary of his Bigelow Aerospace, and that BASS has entered into a partnership with one of the U.S. Government agencies. And what's their purpose? To study, kind of warm up the world, if you will, to the idea of UFOs, related phenomenon, and so on. And if people can read the Mystery Wire article, but it goes into the public not knowing at the time, but the reason Bigelow got this contract, he signed a contract with the Defense Intelligence Agency to carry out investigations into, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program. He got that because one of the U.S. government intelligence officers was confronted, I guess you would say, had a highly unusual encounter with an unknown intelligence at Skinwalker Ranch. Now, Bigelow, he was the owner of Skinwalker Ranch for some years, I think up until about 2016. Now, for people that don't know what I'm talking about, Skinwalker Ranch, it's located approximately 480 or so acres in just outside of Ballard, Utah. It's allegedly the site of very substantial skinwalker activity, which Steve Quell and I talk a lot about in our best-selling book, Unearthing the Lost World of the Cloud Eaters. But it's a farm that's actually called Skinwalker Ranch by the local Indians, who believes that it lies in what they call the path of the Skinwalker. And it takes its name from all this, Native American legend about these skinwalkers that sometimes can come across like werewolves or ghost-like aspirations and so on. But this goes back to something more than just Native American folklore. In the 2000s, there were these claims about this ranch. It first appeared actually in the Utah Deseret News, later in the Las Vegas Mercury, during that series of very riveting articles that were written by George Knapp. And subsequently, his book titled Hunt for the Skinwalker came out and described how the ranch was acquired by the now-defunct National Institute for Discovery Science. That was owned by Bigelow. And they had purchased that property to study anecdotal sightings of UFOs, Bigfoot-like creatures, crop circles, glowing orbs, poltergeist activity, all of that that was being reported, not just by the property owners, but all of the ranchers and stuff roundabout were reporting all of the same stuff. Some of these were born-again Christians that, members of their local churches and board members and all that, but they were saying this really is going on. We don't have a clue why, but this is happening. It's very strange, and some of it's bleeding over into these neighboring ranches. So, Knapp goes there. He writes this article, Is a Utah Ranch the Strangest Place on Earth? And he tells some of the frightening events that had left the owners of the ranch befuddled and actually broke. So everything from bizarre bulletproof wolf things to their prize-winning cattle winding up overnight, mutilated, dozens of them. Other animals on properties nearby disappearing, being obliterated overnight. So all these events were being accompanied up before 2000 and up into 2000, and that's why Bigelow bought that place, because he wanted to study, what's going on here. And by the way, they were able to record weird, strong odors, ghostly wrappings on vehicles, these strange lights that are just kind of materializing out of nowhere, opening into gateways that look like vortexes, violent nightmares, not just by the former property owners, but by the people at Bigelow's. And in there, some of these were government officials. Terrible nightmares, paranormal phenomena, and then, of course, the residents around the country making similar reports. It was a guy, Junior Hicks, a retired local school teacher living in the area. He literally cataloged more than 400 anomalies in the nearby communities before the year 2000. And he and others talking about how, as far as anybody could remember, that part of Utah had been the site of unexplained activity, from things that people might call UFO sightings to Sasquatch manifestations. It was literally as if a gateway to the world of the beyond existed within that basin. I'm telling you this because Steve mentioned Stargates as being connected to the report that he's going to send you, the entities that move in and out of these realities. This is biblical, and it is also historical. It does, in fact, happen. It actually explains, by the way, why do people see the Loch Ness Monster? Why do they see Bigfoot? Why do they see cryptid creatures? Sometimes even get a glimpse, maybe a picture, and then they're gone. How can that possibly be, right? Well, it's because they're other dimensional. They move in and out of this reality, and that is a biblical concept. Now, in one example at Skinwalker that was reported by Knapp, there was this investigator there named Chad Dietken, and the ranch owner that was with him. They saw this mysterious light. Here's a real quick quote. Both men watched intently as the light grew brighter. It was as if someone had opened a window or a doorway. The ranch owner grabbed his night vision binoculars to get a better look, but could hardly believe what he was seeing. The dull light began to resemble a bright portal, and at one end of the portal, a large black humanoid figure seemed to be struggling to crawl through the tunnel of light. After a few minutes, the humanoid figure wriggled out of the light and took off into the darkness. As it did, the window of light snapped shut, as if someone had flicked off a switch, end quote. So this just sounds like people making up stuff, right? This is Steven Spielberg or a horror fiction writer, like writing a story. Except the problem is, these were government officials who were there hired by Bigelow, and they are reporting only what they, and by the way, these guys, Steve, as you know, These guys had the bejeebers scared out of them, and they're huddling in the darkness, and these are top qualified military personnel. These are guys that have backgrounds as, Marines and so on. They have no clue what they are even looking at. So in 1996, Skinwalker Ranch, it's purchased by Robert Bigelow, this wealthy Las Vegas businessman that founded NIDS and now is getting these new contracts with the United States government agencies. He bought it to serve as a clearing house for scientific investigations into fringe science, paranormal, topics, ufology, because it's going on. Joined by high-ranking military officials, including retired U.S. Army Colonel John Alexander, who actually worked to develop remote viewing and psychic experiments for the military during Project Stargate. Remember that? That was the project by the government that was later made into a movie and a book called The Men Who Stare at Goats. There were also former police detectives, scientists, including Eric W. Davis, that worked for NASA, and so on. So Bigelow, he goes there. He donates $3.7 million to the University of Nevada at Las Vegas for the creation and continuation of a program that's going to study what Steve Quayle is going to be revealing to you, because these people, first of all, they don't believe in Jesus, they don't believe in prophecy, so they are befuddled by what it is that they are looking at. And why are so many highly qualified, respectable individuals who know that they can put their career, right, literally on the chopping block by talking about this kind of stuff, but why are they willing to talk about it? Well, for the same reason that Major Marcel was told to cover up the story, but in his private journal talked about what actually really happened in Roswell in 1947, and now all of that is coming out. It's because there really honestly is something, a phenomenon that is transpiring. It happened in the past, but according to Matthew 24:37, it's going to happen again. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also be at the coming of the Son of Man. These entities are real, and they have an interest in the future, of course, of the nation. And much of what they do for us would be interpreted as like altered states of consciousness, like near-death stuff, extrasensory perception, whatever, because it's too mysterious for the secular or normal mind to even begin to understand. One other quick quote here, and then I'll throw this back over to you, Steve. The Las Vegas Mercury reported in November of 2002 at Skinwalker Ranch, quote, one witness reported a path of displaced water in the farm canal, as if a large unseen animal. Let me jump off this for a moment. End quote. I'm talking here about the investigations that were transpiring while Bigelow owned Skinwalker Ranch and had all this military personnel and government employees there recording what it was they were seeing. Okay, back in to the quote. One witness reported a path of displaced water in the farm canal as if a large unseen animal was briskly moving through the water. There were distinct splashing noises, and there was a foul, pungent odor that filled the air, but nothing could be seen. A neighboring rancher reported the same phenomenon. The ranch owners reported that several instances where something invisible moved through their cattle, splitting the herd. The other neighbors reported the same thing, end quote. And yet for all of the anomalous incidents at the ranch, this is the one that took the prize. I want to quote it too, and then I'll stop. On the evening of March 12, 1997, barking dogs alerted the NIDS team. These are the government people working for Bigelow at the ranch. Alerted the team that something strange was in a tree near the ranch house. So the ranch owner, he grabs a hunting rifle, he jumps in the pickup, he races towards the tree, and two of the NIDS staffers followed him in a second truck. Now, Knapp tells us what happened next. Quote, Up in the tree branches, they could make out a huge set of yellowish reptilian eyes. The head of this animal had to be 3 feet wide, they guessed. At the bottom of the tree was something else. Gorman described it as huge and hairy, with massively muscled front legs and a dog-like head, end quote. Now, this Gorman that they're talking about was a crack shot. He fires at both of these figures from a distance of 40 yards. The creature on the ground immediately vanishes. The thing in the tree appears to fall to the ground because Gorman hears it landing heavily in the patches of snow. All 3 men run through the pasture and scrub brush, chasing what they thought actually was a wounded animal, but they never found the animal. They saw no blood either. A professional tracker was brought in the next day to scour the area. He didn't find anything either. But there was a physical clue that was left behind. At the bottom of the tree, they created, like forensic scientists do, like CSI people do. They poured the substance in there and collected the footprint. It was a weird footprint, a rather maybe better set of claw print. The print left in the snow was from something very large. It had 3 digits with what they guessed were sharp claws on the end. And then they did a scientific analysis, and the analysis and the comparison of the print led them to one chilling conclusion. The print from the ranch very closely resembled a velociraptor, an extinct dinosaur made famous in the Jurassic Park films. So here's the question. Was that the same entity that has now led Bigelow to get a major contract with the Defense Intelligence Agency after a senior scientist from the government visited Skinwalker Ranch recently and had a, quote, highly unusual encounter with an unknown intelligence? Frankly, I don't know. It sounds like it possibly could be, but it doesn't really even matter. Something very strange is going on. Our government is aware of it. Bigelow is very aware of it. And Steve, when you sent me those images that you're giving away now for people that will support Doug Hagmann, it very much, to me, confirmed what these secularists who don't even believe in Jesus or demons or anything else, what they believe that they're dealing with, and they're befuddled by it.
Well, and again, Tom, that's the what I've set out to do, and I believe the Lord led me to do this. Some of the images on some of the Aztec alien artifacts literally show the Egyptian god Anubis. They show bipedal, if you will, combination, what everybody thought was mythological. They show the crocodile head on a human. They show, and I believe that's why God brought the destruction on the fallen angel world that preceded Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 and the creation of man in God's image. But what's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, why this is so important to you, my emails are accelerating with people, especially Christians. They love Jesus, they pray, but having unusual creature, or what Tom is calling cryptid run-ins, okay? And also there's another, I think, a History Channel show or one of those Discovery Channel shows on Blind Frog Ranch, which just happens to be in the vicinity of, I believe it's south of Skinwalker Ranch. And in the last episode, they showed literally a guy levitating and being bent backwards at just about, I'd say, 35 to 40 degree angle. And hey, Eric, now do you have the picture of the horned skulls? I sent it to you at Tech Eric. Do you have that one? It's really critical. Okay, would you put it up, please?
All right, stand by.
Thank you.
All right. And folks, if you're just tuning in, Steve Quayle, Tom Horn, God bless Tom Horn, God bless Steve Quayle. SkywatchTVStore.com, SkywatchTVStore.com. Messenger package there as we're fixing to put up the image. And let me know when it's ready. What's that? It's coming.
Okay. One of the things that's Doug. One of the things that people understand. There you go. There and ladies and gentlemen, there are 12 variations of that skull. We also have a cyclopean skull. Now, what's interesting is Cyclops are what's attributed to building the great underground tunnel system of the world. And all of these, as you can see, the multiplicity, for the record, one of those teeth is being analyzed right now. The owner of it has passed on a tooth, and because of the nature of this world of these type of artifacts and stuff, there are rogue scientists that are doing DNA study. And I think this is important, Tom, for everybody to find out. All the, if you will, Western DNA labs that can check out the, if you will, the origin, what the species was, or non-species, all of those labs are tied into the Central Intelligence Agency or the National Security Agency. This horn skull is similar to the Star Child. The Star Child's a little more deformed, and the horns are a little bit more angular. But ladies and gentlemen, somebody says, "Oh, that's just fake." No, some of the skulls still have the dirt that was dug out of them in the last couple weeks, at least maybe 3 weeks. Because again, most people will not believe this until it's too late. The supernatural events happening around here. One of the men who went down there, Tom, this is no kidding. The Lord said, "Before I release to you this knowledge," this wasn't me, this is my guy, the head of the expedition. He said, "I want you to be in prayer for the next, I think, 8 months. This is 8 months ago. And I want you to seek me in your word, because you will need the strength. You will need the strength," he told this to my friend Jesse, "to stand up against the evil that is around this place." That's why I'm choosing, Doug. This will be one of the images along with the others. I think we've got so far close to 24 alien species that people have never seen before. Some of them do reference, for instance, the reptoids, the reptilians. Some of them look like anteater people. And some of them are just so far out there that, you just, I got to tell you something. As many of these artifacts as I've seen over the years, actually, that's not a good statement, over the decades, they're mind-blowing. And again, when people look to a science fiction with whatever creation, creatures, cryptoids, aliens they build, those images, I believe, are being projected in a, if you will, almost a telepathic way. This isn't psychic, or it's this. It's the, if you will, the entities within certain people, I'm talking demons, are expressing their nature and character through the humans. And you've watched some of the politicians change their eyes, change to slits like a reptile. And for the record, Tom, I had multiple emails. I even posted, I think when I was at Branson, one of the last conferences where we had it in person, I posted literally velociraptors with wings that were seen by eyewitnesses. And my friend Greg Simcoe, fabulous concept artist, those are there for people. I'll also include some of those, Doug, because people have got to understand. You've just heard Tom Horn. Obviously it's Saturday, and it's Saturday, that people have got to understand that the 6th. And Tom Horn just talked about velociraptors, and I'll say something interesting. The feet on the different statues, statuettes, creatures, inscribed creatures, some of these things that look like, if you will, a cross between aliens and Skeleton Man or Skeletor, are absolutely telling and compelling. And the claws, if you will, the claws. And I want everybody to know that the majority of the panels I've seen, and I would call them storytelling panels, consider this almost like a diorama of ancient activity and ancient alien activity. The human sacrifice and the alien sacrifice is predominant. Now, what do we see in the United States, ladies and gentlemen? We see people calling for the beheading of Christians and of conservatives. I personally was given the list. Doug and various people have the list. And so, when we talk about the book of Revelations, talking about the altar with those beheaded for the testimony of Jesus, and as a heavenly setting. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why it is incumbent upon Tom Horn. I know this is one of his motivational, if you will, passions. It's my motivational passion, because the most important thing is that, like, for instance, the lions in the back of me, God wants us to be as bold as lions. And these things are subject to the name of Jesus if you are a functional faith person. But if you think you can just go out there because you attend Sunday school and take them on, you can't do that. And people get mad at me saying this, because there's presumptive faith, there's assumptive faith, and then there's real faith. And so what, again, is critical, and I keep using that word, if something's critical, it's also dangerous. Critical usually has a time frame associated with it, not all the time. Reactors, when they go critical, nuclear reactors, that means they're melting down. The core is melting down. Fukushima is a good example. There's a time before the reactor begins to go critical, and it blows up, or it basically melts down into the earth and pollutes all the water. But the point is that, again, the purpose of releasing this stuff is to thank you. You won't find it on the internet. Oh, you might find somebody that describes it or similar, but you'll never find it. And I can tell you this, as a filmmaker, that's what I get out of this. I want you to know this. The money goes to the people that found the artifacts. They said, you mean the gringo doesn't want money? My guy said, no, the gringo doesn't want money. He wants the film rights. He wants to tell your story. That's what this is all about. And once again, I consider this the greatest archaeological find of the 21st century, because this is going to blow the lid on the alien cover-up and cover-over. And also, ladies and gentlemen, the entire Martian cosmological, if you will, catastrophe that pretty much destroyed Lucifer's planet Astra, or Rahab, between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter, is portrayed on a half a millennial, and we're dating it as the best we can. Not we, I don't date stuff, but we got scientists all over the world that are basically wanting to, release the information they have. But when you've got a diorama and absolutely can time it by celestial events, by the proximal distance between the planets, and Tom, they also show if you will, a time tunnel or a wormhole between planets, and it's amazing. But on the bottom of that, there's the god Anubis, an Egyptian god. So you're going, pyramids built by aliens? And I don't believe they're built by Hebrews. Maybe Saqqara, because it's a step pyramid. But, go ahead and take it, because we're running into the time where you got to get going. I can finish.
Yeah, I do got to get out of here, but I want to say a couple of things very fast. You mentioned the alien star child, and you mentioned Anubis. So let me see if I can say something about that very quick. The alien star child reminds me, Steve, of the interviews that I did with Guy Consolmagno. So here you have the top astronomer for the Vatican, right? He did agree. I did personally 4 interviews with him. And when he found out what I was coming from, he cut me off. He later tried to deny, but he told me some of the things that he did, but it doesn't matter, because he had given me his book on intelligent life in the universe, which he wrote. And then the minute it came out, the Vatican pulled it, but it didn't matter. He gave me his own PDF, which I've been making available at no cost to people, because the only quotes I made of him in the book Exo Vaticana are from his own book. So it left him in a place where he could not run from what he had said and from what the Vatican actually believes. So with regard to the alien star child, there was a point where Consolmagno, so I asked him, okay, you guys are talking about our space brothers, Pope Benedict is talking about this now, you've got Opus Dei level theologians writing doctrine, at the Vatican's, top university that is supposed to be used for preparing the world? I mean, some of this stuff is astonishing. Tanzella Needy, the priest, writing doctrine saying that there is information that is coming from an extraterrestrial source that is going to cause us to have to change everything we thought we've ever believed about the gospel. I mean, where are you guys coming from? This seems like a giant setup. So I asked Consul Magno about it, and he says, well, hey, look, right? The Bible talks about extraterrestrials, but then he points to the story of the Nephilim from the Bible as an example of the kind of space saviors that man is soon going to look for salvation. This is in his own book, Intelligent Life in the Universe. That's the quote I took was from the book, but it's what he told me in the private interview. It was an incredible assertion. And so I asked him about it, but that was only toppled by what he then said next, which is also in his book. In quoting John 10:16, he says, well, look, the Bible says, and other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they will hear my voice, and they shall be one fold and one shepherd. Then he goes on to write this in his book. Perhaps, therefore, it is not so far-fetched to see the second person of the Trinity, the Word, who was present in the beginning, John 1:1, coming to lay down his life and take it up again, John 10:18. Listen, not only as the Son of Man, but also as a child of other races, end quote. So he uses that to refer to these alien species. Well, that prompts me. This is all documented in the book Exa Vaticana. It prompts me. Oh, by the way, it's also when people get the messenger. Okay, I got to jump in here. Go to SkywatchTVStore.com. Order the messenger for your $35 donation. You're not only going to get $1,000 in free books, you're also going to get my presentations in which I explain exactly what was going on here with Consul Magno. It's a DVD presentation. I'm giving it to you at no charge, so you're going to get that as well. But back to my comment. Here's what Consul Magno told me. He says, quote, perhaps it's not so far-fetched to see the second person of the Trinity, the Word, in the beginning, John 1:1, coming to lay down his life and take it up again as not only as the Son of Man, but also as a child of other races. So that caused me to ask him, do Vatican scholars like you actually believe that Jesus might have been the star child of an alien race? Is that what you're saying? Do you and other Jesuits, do you secretly hold that the virgin birth was in reality an abduction scenario in which Mary was impregnated by E.T. giving birth to the hybrid Jesus? And more importantly, if you believe that, is the second coming then the return of a star child, an alien? Is that how you're kind of putting all of this stuff together? Well, he couldn't run from what he told me. And again, I'll make all of that stuff available at no cost. If people want to go to SkywatchTVStore.com, $35 donation for the messenger, I'm going to guarantee that at least 5,000, but man, I would like it to be a lot more than that, is going to get forwarded to Doug Hagmann to continue supporting this ministry. Now, one other past thing, and I do have to go. Steve, you mentioned Anubis. So I'm going to be, there's a brand new series that we launched today on SkywatchTV.com, on the website. And it's called The Top Secret Files or something like that with Tom Hoyne. It is going to talk a lot about these different gateways, the doorways, the portals. What does that have to do with the year 2025? Why do I believe that that's happening? But, Steve, I'm also going to go where no man has ever gone before. Because, as you know, I personally believe, in fact, I produced a documentary film called Belly of the Beast. I personally believe that Antichrist is going to be revived from his deadly head wound in the crypt that's beneath the floor of the rotunda in the U.S. Capitol Dome. But how many people understand that the U.S. Capitol Dome is actually an anti-Christ parody of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ? Jesus dies. According to the scripture, he goes into the underworld. He presents himself there to those 72 fallen watchers that are bound according to the book of Enoch and quoted by Peter and Jude in the New Testament. He presents himself to them. Well, when you look at the apotheosis of Washington in the dome of the U.S. Capitol, where George Washington is becoming the Osiris, he's rising into that pagan heaven. But at the base of it, there are 72 pentagrams. It forms a stargate. Steve, you talk about a stargate. The most powerful stargate on planet Earth is the U.S. Capitol Dome. And it is a stargate that allows for traversing into the pagan heaven of Osiris, but also coming back from the pagan heaven of Osiris into this current world. 72. Jesus dies. He presents himself to the 72 angels. And yet it's parodied here in the U.S. Capitol Dome. Now, in the underworld of Osiris, there are different keys that open the doors to the regions of the underworld, and Anubis, that you mentioned, is one of the key individuals that hold the keys to the 12 gates that are mentioned, like in the Egyptian text, the Book of the Dead and all that. He's one of the ones that hold the keys down there. What does that have to do with Jesus? Well, Jesus rises from the dead in Revelation 1:18. He says, I'm not only alive, I now have the keys to death and the grave. Paul, in 1 Corinthians 2:8, says that the princes, the 72, the princes of this world and their influence, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory if they would have known what he was going to do, right? But then beneath your feet in the U.S. Capitol Dome is the crypt. And by the way, it's empty. The tomb there is empty. He is not here, for he is risen into the heaven of Osiris. All of it is an anti-Christ parody of Jesus. But we know that when Antichrist comes, he's going to parody everything that was Jesus. Jesus performed miracles, he'll perform miracles. Jesus says, unless you eat of my flesh and my blood, you have no part with me in the kingdom of heaven. Well, Antichrist is going to do that too. It's going to happen in the form of a virus, and it's going to be that Antichrist is the only one who is immune to a virus like COVID that's going to bring the whole world to their knees. But unless you take this virus, this vaccine that is derived from his flesh and blood, participate in this black communion, you're not going to survive. Okay, there's so much more to be said, guys. I got to go. Ladies and gentlemen, please go to skywatchtvstore.com, get the messenger. We are going to send a part of that $35 donation to Doug Hagman to keep the Hagman Report on the air. I'm going to make sure that at least $5,000, if not a whole lot more, goes to Doug Hagman. Steve Quayle's going to do the same thing. He's going to make sure that at least $5,000 goes to Doug Hagman. So that's $10,000, but it could be a whole lot more. And then we are asking you, please, go to HagmanReport.com, click on the donation button, $5, $10, $50, $1,000, $25,000, whatever you can donate, because, ladies and gentlemen, we are at a point right now. And actually, I wished I had more time to talk about the Great Reset, how that's paving the way for the fulfillment of the great prophecy on the Great Seal of the United States, the arrival of an extraterrestrial savior known in antiquity as Osiris and Apollo. I'm out of time, guys. I love you. I got to go. I've got a conference call that's coming up that I have to be part of. Thank you for letting me be here today, folks. Please make sure that the Hagman Report stays online. You are in danger of losing your rights to be able to have access to the truth. It is unfolding around us in ways that are unprecedented. Everybody can see it. we're all being shut down and deplatformed, and even people like Parler and whatever, they're all finding out that this new regime, they are not going to give you the time of day. You either say what they once said, like Oceania in 1984, George Orwell's masterpiece, or you're just simply not going to have access to the world. But isn't this biblical prophecy? Isn't this what the book of Revelation and all of it describes as the end times, right? So God bless you guys. I love you so much. I got to run.
Thank you, Tom Horn. Thank you, Tom Horn. Most generous. The messenger package. God bless you, Tom. Thank you so very, very much. Be safe.
All right. Talk to you guys next time.
Folks, that was Tom Horn, Skywatch TV, skywatchtvstore.com, the messenger package. I'm absolutely blown away. You know, there's so much information in that messenger package. It is hard for me to even describe or to list what's in there. You can see it on your screen. Go to skywatchtvstore.com and choose that. And I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart. And God bless you, Tom Horn. And by the way, Steve, you know, I remember that broadcast when you and Tom, and I think possibly Chris Putnam was also on, when you folks were talking about the resignation of the Pope, and then it happened. And you know, all I can say is it just, and then of course Petrus Romanus, Exo Vaticana, it just keeps going and going and going. And you know, with your books as well, it's like tearing up a page of tomorrow's newspaper. So thank you, Steve Quayle. And Steve, you've got the floor.
Well, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that's going to be in this PDF report that you're going to get, and it's only going to go to those of you who $50 and above donation to Doug Hagmann. And I'll tell you why that is. It's because you're, in essence, and I don't mean this in any flattery, I fear God too much to flattery, but those of you who have kept Doug on the air, bought the copy, those of you who have kept me on the air, those of you who have heard Tom Horn, I don't know how many shows we've done together, but you're the ones, and I pray this, I really do, Doug, I pray, Lord, lay it unto their benefit. Restore unto them, Lord, the provision, the protection. I mean, you've heard me pray on Doug's show. I'm serious, but what I want to share with you now is some of the most astonishing things I know about Antarctica. Now, I know that, you know, Cliff High is picking a lot of it up, and I can't say it. Cliff High and his Twitter feed and stuff is talking about Antarctica. At Branson 2 or 3 years ago, and I don't remember quite candidly now, but I made the statement that Mars and Antarctica are inextricably entwined. And you're going to be hearing about those. You're going to be seeing great revelations about Mars. You're going to see some astonishing stuff. And when Tom was talking about, Doug, the whole situation with Operation High Jump, that's what I detailed in Empire Beneath the Ice. Now, I want to talk to you about that empire because, first of all, Admiral Byrd was one of the most decorated military men in the world. And I'm going to read this so I don't blow it, okay? And I apologize for my eyes. I have to look off screen. But what people don't understand is this, that James Forrestal, the first Secretary of Defense, was thrown out this, third floor of the Bethesda Naval Hospital? What's interesting, Bethesda, the pool of Bethesda, were the first one into the water that after the angel troubled it would be healed. And we all know the story of what Jesus did to the man that couldn't drag himself to the water in time. He healed him. So I'm going to talk to you about three people. I'm going to talk to you about...
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Steve. I made a mistake there. I was talking off air. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people don't understand this. That the OSS, Office of Strategic Services, I think, was the forerunner of the CIA. And because Admiral Byrd was the one that encountered the Nazis in Antarctica, in literally flying saucers that shot down some of the aircraft that were on the aircraft carrier down there. That was a full-scale carrier task force group in that time. By the way, somebody was kind enough, I think it was God bless Jamie Walden, but he actually knew somebody. I said, I don't care about their names, Jamie. And they actually had in their grandfather's diary the names of the five pilots that lost their lives. So this was in Antarctica. We're fighting the Nazis after the official end of the war. But here's what Buzz Aldrin had to, first of all, Admiral Byrd, then Buzz Aldrin, and then you're going to have your mind blown by the Jesuit, one of the head Jesuits that was in Antarctica. From the debriefing of Admiral Byrd, this is going to be in your report, by the OSS, which was also the CIA starting to form, on March 11th, 1947, Admiral Byrd was taken to a meeting in the Pentagon, and after some basic talk, the room was cleared, except for Admiral Byrd and two persons, one from the OSS and one from the newly formed CIA. The first question which Admiral Byrd was asked was as follows: who precisely did you meet in Antarctica? Remember, the official narrative is he said he met the king of the world or the master of the world. Now listen to this. It's going to be important for you as you follow, and I'm staying linear. The Byrd reply, it was Lord Lucifer, master of the world. The second question asks, what precisely did Lord Lucifer tell you? The Byrd reply, I was told that the USA government was to follow all his instructions and that entities would come to the USA government at the correct time and inform the president or others precisely what would be required of them. The third question, were you told anything else by Lord Lucifer, the master of the world? The Byrd reply was, I was told to give the message I just gave you, then remain silent, as my job was to be the messenger. The last statement from the two people, OSS, CIA, boy, does this sound familiar? You are not to discuss this with anyone ever. It is the most secret information of the USA government. Is this clear? Simply, yes, sir. At that point, the meeting is ended. Now, we've all heard about the different people that have gone to Antarctica. Excuse me, I've got to have some water. Thank you, Jesus. I'm not taking any blessings for granted. Here's what really happened to Buzz Aldrin in Antarctica. Buzz landed, and he was taken to an area which contains pyramids, which, like the Egyptian pyramid, have precision edges. Not basically stratovolcanoes. He then took photos of the pyramids, and then he was suddenly unable to breathe when the moment before he was in no physical stress at all. He goes to take pictures of the pyramids, and he can't breathe. He stops breathing. He was then evacuated as a medical mercy mission with no true public comment other than he had trouble breathing. He then tweeted a message, it feels like evil itself, after which he had a second attack in the hospital, and inability to breathe, and promptly removed the tweet. Remember all that, ladies and gentlemen? His personal testimony to people upon returning was never made public, but here it is. Now, I want to make a statement. I could not know this. I don't know Buzz Aldrin, love to talk to him. There are people all over the world that are getting visions and dreams from God that they're on the wrong side of the fence. In other words, they're serving Lord Lucifer. And here's what he said to the people that he went into detail with. I saw pyramids made of shiny metal-like surface which felt so evil that I could not come close to the object to fully investigate them. And as I think carefully about what I saw, I felt a danger to the whole world from the object and the entities who made the objects. Also, I saw one thing which I felt that I'd seen on the way to the moon. but I did not comment about it because it was some large cigar-shaped objects, precisely like what I had seen in space. But the objects were sitting behind the pyramids as if the evil did not want me to see them. Listen to this. There's a common thread here. When I took some photos of the pyramid of the objects behind them in the area, suddenly, again, I could not breathe and passed out, when the moment before there was nothing wrong with me. Now, here is critical because you're going to find out something very telling. I knew that at that point, Buzz Aldrin speaking, I entered a place of true evil and danger for the whole world. At his debriefing, Buzz Aldrin was bluntly told he was not to share this information with anyone or he would be promptly killed. Thank God, God intervenes. Just to help you understand the entities who took the statements of Buzz Aldrin were one from the NSA and one from the, how do I describe this? The secret ruling government of Lucifer under the ice. That's the easiest way I can do it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is what's really interesting. The head of the Jesuit church almost 4 years ago, you can look it up, traveled to Antarctica in December of 2016. He met with Lucifer, and here are his comments from his own notes. Your throne and the room are more beautiful than was ever told to me. I bless you, my Lord Lucifer. How may I best serve you? Lucifer commanded, I will send you entities to instruct you as required, and you are to follow them exactly per instructions given to you. Yes, my Lord Lucifer, I understand you and obey you. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a puzzle. Two of the most evil witches in 2016, who made a secret joint visit to Antarctica to meet with Lucifer. Upon arrival to the throne room, both women exclaimed, "This is more beautiful and wonderful than any words could express to us, Lord Lucifer." They both bowed and knelt before Lucifer and asked, "How may we serve you, Lord Lucifer?" Notice the reply. "I will send you entities with precise instructions for you to follow, even until death, to accomplish the instructions." This is clear. They both said, "Yes, Lord Lucifer, we understand you exactly." At that point, they were taken from the throne room and sent to their plane back to the USA. One thing is totally consistent. In all the meetings was the words were short and to the point and not drawn out, but very precise and basically consistent across all the meetings. The Apostle Paul talks about even though we know the promises of God, we don't see them all fulfilled right now. When Jesus was tempted by the devil in the wilderness, he was taken up into the top of the temple, and Lucifer said, all these kingdoms will be yours if you but bow down and worship me. Jesus rebuked the devil, obviously. He didn't argue with the devil because when Adam and Eve sinned, that supernatural creation of Almighty God that they had, listen, ladies and gentlemen, they had instantaneous word of knowledge, word of wisdom, because God had created them. Obviously, limited in powers, they couldn't have the omnipotent, omniscient, and what is the other one? Omnipotence, omniscient, and all-powerful. Maybe there's another one, all-knowing. Every place, all-knowing at all times. And I may have forgotten one. I'm sorry. This stuff really gets me going. But what the key is everybody that goes to Antarctica, and I want to make a clarification here. Do I believe that Lucifer's throne room, literally on Earth, is under the Antarctic ice? Absolutely. Absolutely. Remember where Pergamos, Jesus talks in Revelation about where Satan seats? Where Satan is seated? The people that have told me over the years of what Lucifer's throne room looked like, how could they know? They've been there, I guess. They said, Steve, tell the Christians the deception will be so great by the beauty and the brilliance of the deceptive nature of Lucifer that people who look on him will just be astonished, as these people were. The three things they had in common: only Buzz Aldrin, God bless him, did not, to my knowledge, go into Lucifer's throne room. But the emanation of evil, and by the way, it's huge. It's measured in the hundreds of square miles. It has stargates coming in from all points of the universe. All points in the universe. People gate in and gate out. That means they come in through stargates, they leave through stargates. How many can really imagine this? And how many can really accept this? I couldn't until I prayed about it, until I started matching things from my past, what people had told me. And then the eureka moment came when I understand. Ezekiel 28. I want to read this. This is really important. Really important. Starting at verse 11, it's talking about an earthly king of Tyrus, Tyrus, and that's talking about the supernatural one, and you'll see how this applies to Lucifer. You remember the Lucifer telescope at Mount Graham? Do you remember luciferase and the enzyme that's changing men into monsters? Oh, and if you got time, just type in xenobots and see the life form that has been created in the lab using nanotechnology and nanites specifically, and they call them xenobots. And then, Doug, you were so kind in my book Xenogenesis, written, 7 years ago, to give me the box of chocolates. And again, my brother Will, God bless you, Spec Ops, just a great brother, was at the dying deathbed of a former director of the Central Intelligence Agency. I think he was associate director. And the CIA guy dying wanted to make his peace with God, and he gave Will all this stuff. And it's in chapter 13 of Xenogenesis. I think it's called Under the Rainbow. At that point, I said it was the most single important revelation I'd been given on the air, while I was on talk radio in my entire life. Xenogenesis, the creation of xenobots, adding a component separate and distinct from human DNA. If you notice the cover of the book, it has a flying saucer, has a DNA strand. It's pretty cool. Duncan Long, who, God bless him, went to be with the Lord years ago, was the artist and just a phenomenal talent. And a baby being born, the offspring of the aliens. Let me read this to you. Pray about it. Take it to the Lord in prayer. This has everything to do with Antarctica. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You have been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardius, the topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and thy pipes was prepared in thee, and the day that thou wast created. Lucifer was a created being, but he's also, ladies and gentlemen, he's not an angel. You are the anointed cherub that covereth. And I have set thee so. That was upon the holy mountain of God. You walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Idiom for the different planets. Thou was perfect in thy ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of the earth with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Remember when Jesus said he saw Satan fall like lightning? I think it's Isaiah 14. I'll check on that. But here's what I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen. There is a cohesive reason that all the stuff in Mexico, all the stuff in Egypt, all the stuff I've written about, and by the way, I want to make this clear. The new DVD has been re-edited, okay? It's in stock now. Forbidden History Revealed, the Egyptian Present, the Americas, and the Pacific Rim, the Great Smithsonian Cover-Up. If you want to see my statement that real history is covered up and covered over, just like what's going on right now in Antarctica, just like what's going on in Mars and on the moon, you got to understand this. A gentleman, a brother of mine, I'll just call his first name Gary, and it's not Gary Cole, just to take that off the plate, was allowed to see the secret warehouses that are in the Smithsonian. He saw giant bones, but the most important thing he saw were all the Egyptian artifacts, in which, if you know the Grand Canyon, the majority of the features that are the biggest are all named for Egyptian gods. The Temple of Anubis, if you will. The Temple of Osiris. Isis. Isn't that interesting? I said, why? One of the most famous geologists in history, this should blow your mind, Dr. Troy Peiwe, P-E-W-E, set up the Arizona, I think, University of Arizona geology department, used to take float trips down the Grand Canyon. The eyewitness interview that we have on this, nobody's ever produced it before. This is God. This isn't bragging rights. Steve, if you want my people, I'll bring the people that know to tell you what my people need to know. So when the students started asking Dr. Troy Peiwe about why are all these landforms, and from thousands of years ago, named for Egyptian gods and goddesses. You know what the most famous geologist, one of the most famous in the world, said? He said, for the interesting items that were found there. Flash back in time with me, I'll take you to a gentleman who was the president of Egypt, late 1800s, guy by the name of Nubar Pasha, P-A-S-H-A. By the way, this is all in this. He makes a request to the Smithsonian and the U.S. government saying, will you please return all of the Egyptian artifacts that have been found in the Americas, especially North America, to us, but with the giant bones and mummies, just destroy them. By the way, when my eyewitness was in the Smithsonian, and he's a Christian, you guys, loves God really, really, really a lot. Proof is in the pudding, too, in his life. When he was taken to the Smithsonian, he was shown the giant bones. He was shown Egyptian mummies taken from the Grand Canyon, being put into like a CAT scanner. And people who are security cleared from all over the world come to these secret labs in the Smithsonian. 4 floors deep, I think. Maybe one was 8 floors. And off of each floor was tunnels. And the tunnels, they're huge tunnels, by the way, were rooms with artifacts. The gentleman who gave my friend the tour said, in these warehouses, plural, we have one of everything we believe that's ever been on the earth. Maybe there's one thing they don't have. But what was more interesting, Dr. Troy Peiwe wanted, when he died, his brain to be put in a vat of whatever preservative, alcohol, formaldehyde, and be placed next to John Wesley Powell. John Wesley Powell didn't believe, or didn't want the public to believe, that's a better way of saying it, that there had been diffusion thousands of years ago. In other words, the Egyptians sailed the ocean blue, and so did the Chinese. And oh, by the way, the island of Maui in Hawaii is named for the navigator of Captain Rada, 250 BC, an Egyptian captain. The amount of intelligence, the amount of understanding. As you read the book of Enoch, you'll find out it was given. It was presented to mankind by fallen angels. That's what the book of Enoch pretty much is all about. And then the book of Giants. The book of Giants is already being, and by the way, these are just fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but I just posted a story, I think about, a week ago, where they believe there are new scrolls to be found. And I believe those scrolls come under the, if you will, the admonition of Daniel the prophet, when the angels said, seal it up, Daniel, for that is, seal it up, Daniel, for that is for, a given time in the future. I'm not quoting it word for word because my mind's going too fast. Slow down, Steve. The things that Doug has presented to you allowed Tom Horn, myself, the Daniel Holdings, and others to present are absolutely unique to this platform. Look, I've been on Coast to Coast, I think, as much as any guest they've ever had. I talked to the producer, George's producer, Lisa. I think that's a true statement. I'm not talking about the people call in, for 5 minutes and give a health update or, travel update or whatever. But over the years, the benefit of being on Doug's platform has been a blessing to so many. Now, we have our critics. Everybody's got a critic. But ladies and gentlemen, we know stuff, and we're both seeking verification. Doug does, I do. And by the way, Tom Horn is really connected in the world, and God's given him favor. And why certain evil men tell him what they tell him, my jaw just drops. The point is that we wanted to do this special broadcast in order to thank you and to ask you to support the Hagmann Report. When I send out, this special report, I'd like to ask you to honor the copyright. It'll be copyrighted. Just simply because in this world of podcasting, in talk radio, I can't tell you how many times people quote back my words, but somebody steals the words and then calls me a liar. I believe the proof is in the fruit. It's not a question of judge not lest you be judged. It's a question specifically of where's the fruit? Where's the fruit? Where's the fruit? So, ladies and gentlemen, this Saturday, I want you to, obviously tomorrow is Sunday, Saturday the 6th, and I want you just to ponder generosity. I'm asking those of you who can't afford it. Listen, this isn't a shakedown request. This is to keep Doug on the air, and I'll make this clear. We're taking extraordinary efforts to avoid the very mechanisms that can take him down on his website, take me down, taken me down. The satellite network will be explained to you. By the way, I'm just getting in real time. This will go up as a link on Doug's website to the satellite phone store, mine too. And there will be a new company. And it's Galileo Communications. Galileo's not spelled like the former astronomer of Italy. It's spelled kind of like that, and it is already trademarked, so you can't go out and try and register it and sell it back to us. But it's a pretty ambitious project. If it weren't for the heart, again, of a couple of the owners, you listen to me interview Eric, you haven't heard Tina yet, but they're so convinced of the internet shutdown, of different power outages, and every weekend it seems like, what was it? Apple was out yesterday, or some of the big networks were down. People flip out when they can't get a hold of somebody on Faces of Death book. Can't tell you how many people are my friends are on Faces of Death book. I got an email today. I'm not rebuking anybody. But ladies and gentlemen, you need to know the lateness of the hour. Jesus said, and here I'll close with this. Jesus said there's never been a time like it, nor would be again, except those days be shortened. For us, the elect's sake, those of us who have been washed in the blood of the Lamb, who have the testimony of Jesus, who haven't betrayed the Lord. One of my dear research associates sent me an email today saying this pastor's talking about the end times, and now he's talking about a cruise. I don't know, coming up in whatever cruise time. What is that? The spring into the summer? Are you kidding me? I don't believe that pastor is using what I would call wisdom in applying the lateness of the hour, the times. And, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, all this alien, the fallen angel stuff, I only present it as underlying validation, not the validation, but illustration. That's a better word. Illustration of the Word of God. When I just read to you Ezekiel 28, it's talking about Lucifer being the most beautiful being in the universe. It's not the typical devil, hell, cauldrons, burning pots. Now, that is true. But Lucifer's kingdom, remember this, he was the brightest, he was the most glorious. And when I listed all of those precious stones, ladies and gentlemen, people who have been there, I have no desire to go there, basically said, there are colors that are so beautiful. And I said to him, if it's so beautiful, why does he have to kill babies? Why does he have to have blood sacrifices? Why does he have to do that? There's an interesting thing. He wants the blood of the life of the innocents because he can never be redeemed. And the fallen angels have one command: go out and kill every human by any way you can. Sounds like the current platform, doesn't it?
Public policy.
Public policy. Thank you, Doug. And again, ladies and gentlemen, for $50, you get the report. I guarantee you there's nothing like it. I guarantee you that. It's not a promise to get you to give $50. It's a promise, though. It's an insurance policy. 10 cups of coffee. Maybe some of you want to spew after you hear some of this stuff, but I will do my best prayerfully and carefully to give you just the most important stuff without, and I mean this, without getting you into trouble. But I want to say this one more time, the caveat. I want you literally to put your hands on your eyes and say, Lord, I want you to cover my eyes with the blood of Jesus. I want you to cover my mind with the blood of Jesus. And if you're timid, and if stuff scares you, and you're having events in the night where there's any fear, please don't. Keep Doug on the air. But, Doug, if they do send you $50 and they say, don't send report, I need to know that.
Right. Because
this stuff is incredibly upsetting. And as you guys know my history, I've been dealing with it with a long time. Doug Hagmann, if it weren't for you, literally, so many people around the world would not have heard of Jesus. So many people around the world would not have had an eternal hope and knowing where they're going to end up. No matter what happens to the world, it's going to get bloody, it's going to get gory, and there's never been a time like it. But God will deliver his people who call upon his name, and he is capable of feeding us, protecting us, guiding us, and at the right time, taking us home. Doug, God bless you. Thank you for hosting the Saturday Night Fundraiser. And I believe this will change the course of history of people's lives. And also, it's going to force disclosure. I can only tell you why this forces disclosure. Because they don't want you to know what Tom Horn knows. They don't want you to know what Steve Quayle knows. And God is saying, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because they resist it. Don't resist it. If you can't receive it, just put it on the shelf. This isn't, again, to titillate. It isn't a horror show. It's to tell you this, that when Jesus makes statements, he says what he means and he means what he says. Four-star general once told me, Steve, I can recruit from the Navy SEALs. I can recruit from anybody who's out there that's exceptional. But I need to tell you that some of the bravest men, some of the toughest men, some of the strongest men, when they first encounter some of this stuff in the real world, they literally turn white, and some of them literally die of heart attacks. Not all. So when I tell you this stuff, it's just to say this: I am only withholding that which the Lord, and I'm praying over, but you'll see alien species, and they may be nothing more than fallen angels with a basically, biological weapon set to how to destroy mankind. And oh, by the way, the messenger RNA, angels are messengers sent to those of us who are called heirs of salvation. A brother sent me that. I didn't come up with that on my own. Angelos, messenger. So what you're getting is angelic, fallen angelic DNA through the, if you will, the sexual progeny of the giants. Doug, thank you.
Steve, thank you so very much. Just from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you. I want to thank Tom. And I want to thank everyone watching and listening to this broadcast. Very special Saturday night broadcast. The information you provided is second to none. Same with Tom. And there's nothing more I can say. Except thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you and everything that you do and everything you stand for. Steve, God bless you, my friend.
Blessings to you this weekend, Doug.
All
Thank
right.
you, Eric. Bye-bye.
Folks, that'll do it. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Thank you for your support. There's nothing more I can say except thank you. And what's that?
I said, let's keep this going.
Let's keep it going, indeed. May God bless each and every one of you. Have a great weekend.